And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance. And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.
Approaching Steel Plaza. Please stand clear of the doors.
Welcome back to the darkest corners of the world, part of the Steel Plaza podcast flagship. Thank you for tuning in and telling a friend. Thanks for your help in keeping the pirate ship afloat by donating to www.paypal.me/the Steel Plaza podcast. We couldn't do the show without you. Wouldn't be possible. Joining us today from Perth, Australia, Brad Sinclair from the band Grouch is here to help us dive into some of the darkest corners of the world and to be our spirit guide of the independent artist circuit. Brad, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Cheers.
Good stuff, man. Tell me how you got the whole thing started with Grouch, man.
So I guess it all started. My little son was born, and suddenly zero time for my love of music and my pursuits. Kind of found myself needing to be immediate, and immediate for me is the music I grew up on, which is death metal. Tampa Bay, Sweden, those two places in particular. So yeah, just found myself really running hard down a big death metal rabbit hole again, which is beautiful.
I love what you've done with the song, and a lot of people say, well, death metal, it's all the same. And I always challenge people, okay, well, if it is, can you play it? And they can't. Can you create it? And they can't. So I always challenge people, if you think it's all the same, if you think it's nothing different, then try to play it, and they can't do it. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely agree. I agree for most genres to be real about it. I mean, it's hard to make a sad song, it's hard to make a happy song, it's hard to make an angry song, anything authentic, anything real. It's, it either has it or it doesn't, It can be the devil's in the details, right?
It truly is. It truly is. What's different about the music that you create is there's a hook. There's a hook there, and it gets stuck in your head. The song, Your Soul Is Mine, it literally gets stuck in your head, almost like a pop song, but it's a death metal song. And I think that's fantastic.
Man, that's pretty freaking great to hear, because it's not like I wrote it with that in mind, but there's been a couple of little things written about it, and that's certainly been said a couple of times that it has that hooky thing going on. Look, this is going to sound kind of silly, but no, I don't know. I just make music that sounds cool to me, and it's inspired by that kind of background, but. If you can name an influence and it sounds just like you, there's probably something horribly wrong. So it's nice to know that it sounds a bit different to people.
Right. What are some of your influences, Brad?
I guess going way back, and it's probably audible in the sounds that I go for. Look, Entombed for me, their first 2 or 3 albums were pretty special for me. Growing up, the Tampa Bay scene, especially, I guess, Morbid Angel, more recent stuff, Bloodbath, that's all the death metal stuff. Growing up as a hard rock kid, my dirty little secret was I'm a massive Prince fan. So it's one of those ones. What are my influences? Those would be the key ones for that. I guess genre specific, but realistically, it comes from anywhere and everywhere. I love a lot of music.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Florida was huge for the speed metal, the death metal. And like you said, you had Morbid Angel, you had, I guess Slayer came from there, Job for a Cowboy. That was almost like the roots of, like, what the hell is going on down there? And you would just listen to it and you would think, wow, this is like nothing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think, everything that's developed from there, I don't really name or do or describe subgenres too well at all. So for me, there's plenty of deathcore, there's plenty of metalcore, there's plenty of all that kind of stuff. That, again, if it's so easy to sort of dismiss one subgenre or whatever with one brush, but the reality is that it's either it is or it isn't, and there's plenty of great stuff that's sort of gone down that family tree of extreme metal that's still amazing. I just have no freaking idea how to describe it.
So, Brad, do you think Australians have had quite about enough of AC/DC and the Bee Gees?
I could get myself in trouble here, man. Are there any Australians listening? Ignore this next statement. So,
are they a national treasure?
Yeah, yes, they're. So yes, I will say AC/DC are a national treasure. For me, growing up, absolutely not. My whole life, they've just never done it for me. They've got a couple of songs that are undeniably great songs, and I can have the objective appreciation that AC/DC are a pretty freaking amazing band, but for me, just never did it. Hell's Bells, the first song off Back in Black, is something that gets a spin in my car when I'm driving around. But that is literally the only AC/DC song I listen to. So can I speak for our population? I think I'd be hilariously wrong to try and say that Australians are over them, because I mean, we're a pretty proudest punch of a lot of our big exports, because I think musically, in terms of individual regions, but also as a country, we punch well above our weight class. I'd suggest.
They are a national treasure, and as well, what about the Bee Gees? A national treasure?
Oh, the Bee Gees, it's the temptation to just whack on Staying Alive and strap down the street with your headphones on. I mean, I think we've all been there, and if we haven't been there, we should absolutely go there.
Right. So I wanted to ask you that because a listener sent me an email with a question, and she said, I would like you to ask this of the gentleman from Australia. She said, do you think the Magna Carta should be amended to include, if you own a Bee Gees record, you shall be publicly humiliated? That's what she asked.
Well, I guess, sorry, my throat's gone all gravelly and weird. Technically, look, the Magna Carta was signed in England and was more to do with English royalty. Having said that, we're still under the crown technically. So yeah, sure, let's make that amendment. But I think that there needs to be sub clauses in there that suggest that there is a really cathartic experience to be had in pretending one is John Travolta and getting a real good strut on to Staying Alive. It's almost a religious experience.
It truly is. It truly is. Okay, so we're gonna play some music here. So this is from Lüneburg, Germany. T.I.M, and it's spelled out T.I.M. They are a full-out indie post-punk band, a do-it-yourself band, and the song is called Danke Kapitan, and this is from T.I.M.
Will mich nur bedanken bei Freunden und Bekannten, die mit mir im Leben stehen oder standen. Nur bedanken bei meiner Familie und damit meine ich jeden, ihr habt mir Ziele im Leben. Danke euch dafür mit diesem Lied. Mal schauen, was noch geschieht mit der Zeit. Für euch ist dieser Beat, egal wo es mich hinzieht, egal wo es mich hintreibt, ihr bleibt. Ich könnte echt nicht ohne und würde euch vermissen. Ihr seid wie ein Bett mit warmer Decke und ergonomischen Kissen. Denn egal wo ich wohne, ob Paradies oder Todeszone, ich hab euch lieb. Vom Scheitel bis zur Sohle. Danke Bei dem mit Benehmen, die alles geben, was sie haben, denn sie glauben an die guten Taten. Will mich bedanken bei allen Gottverdammten, die ihren Gott nicht fanden, die nun in Freiheit leben, auf unseren schönen Erdverbanden. Will mich bedanken bei denen, die den Mund aufmachen und nicht nur schon quatschen. Bei denen, die eine Meinung haben und niemals die Meinung des anderen untergraben, die zuhören, auch wenn's schwerfällt. Die nicht ihr Geld zählen, sondern die Schönheit der Welt sehen, die nicht aufgeben, was zu verändern, die ständig kentern, aber immer wieder aufstehen, die sich auflehnen gegen das System, die gegen die Regeln segeln. Ich bedanke mich beim Kapitän, der alles ohne Schläge regelt und einfach nur segelt.
Danke, Kapitän. Danke. Danke, dass es euch...
And from Lüneburg, Germany, that was Tim with Danke Kapitän. And we are speaking with and joined by Brad from Grouch from Perth, Australia. Brad, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, having a great time, man. It's really good to be speaking to you. Cheers for your time.
Welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here. Now, Brad, you are from Perth, Australia. Now, would you say that's a relatively safe city? Because there's been a bad rap in the news about Perth being allegedly dangerous, and I don't exactly agree.
Wow, that's kind of news to me. I think every place you go to has its pockets of wonderful. But yeah, as a general rule, it's fairly chilled out here. It's certainly fairly safe in my experience. I tested the waters over the years, I'm sure, but yeah, I think that's untrue.
I agree with you. I think that's fake news. I would say the number of British people in Perth is probably about the same as Sydney, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a vast difference in total population between the cities, so it seems more noticeable in Perth.
Absolutely. Perth's a pretty small place. 1.5 million. It's not like I don't check the stat regularly.
Right.
But yeah, very small town, very small city, and very isolated. So again, when I talk about regions punching above their weight, I think look in particular in the death metal, black metal scene. There's some amazing bands coming out of Perth, and I honestly don't know how we have the population to support them, let alone find the individuals to play in those bands. But some great stuff out there.
Right. Well, let's talk about some of those bands. What are some of your favorite bands that are coming out of there?
Oh, so stuff like guys I've hooked up kind of recently through doing this project. So As Light Decays, Deathlehem, Bayview Suspect are great. Wrath of Fenrir, kind of a blackened death metal thing. I hope I get that right. And then, again, I don't do genres very well, but it's definitely some black going on in there. Wrath of Fenrir are pretty amazing. We've going further back, obviously, we've got bands like Carnival that came out of Perth who, are just absolutely slaying it. They're sort of gone well beyond the metal that they started with, and a more kind of a prog rock kind of thing, but they're incredible. They're kind of one of my favorites. I
would love to hear that on the show, so recommend them to me. I would love that.
Absolutely.
So I'll read another fan email to you. Another thing to ask the man from Australia. They said the man from Australia. They don't know your name. So,
I'm comfortable with that description. It's good.
Jennifer says, some British people are very upfront or vulgar when presenting their opinions. So if you take offense easily, some people might feel uncomfortable in Perth. Do you agree?
There are a lot of British people in Perth, but it's dominated by Australians, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So British people? Look, I think something I learned from living in an expat community over in China for a while was all white people aren't the same, and this was a shock to me. And it's something. It was a great thing to find out. We've all got our subtly different cultures. We've all got our different modes of communication. I think yes, the English and the Australians can be a bit rough around the edges at times, but the opposite side of that coin exists, much the same way as I'm sure it does in the States, where you have your people who are lovable rogues and a bit rough around the edges, which I think our cultures celebrate. Right. But by and large, everyone's pretty good. It is easy to offend people. I mean, we use some pretty harsh language that isn't intended at all to offend. We use it very regularly, so that can be a shock for some of our American friends.
I love it. I love it. So to answer your question, Jennifer, Perth, it's absolutely fine. It's not an offensive city. And guess what? You'll be fine there. You're not going to get stabbed. Okay? You're fine.
No. God, no.
You're absolutely fine. Speaking of cities,